Well, if there is any good news in this, it is that the GOP is turning on Fox. It's a machine destroying itself because Fox is largely responsible for the current state of the GOP. So I love to see this havoc. Now, if you were listening yesterday, we said two things. Number one, CNN is really going to make a strong play to be the new conservative network. Not the same thing that Fox was, but a network for reasonable conservatives. That's likely going to be a business tactic they try. And we said that GOP senators were much more likely to side with the CNN sort of a little bit closer to the center side. We have that today. And as we were doing that stream last night, this clip was playing on television. And it is a wonderful sign of things to come because this is conservative infighting. I don't even really want to call MAGA conservative. They're not. But this is Republican infighting, and you love to see it. Here's CNN talking about Tucker Carlson's ridiculous stunt with the January 6th footage, which has served thus far only to embarrass Fox further and MAGA as always.
Offensive and misleading. That's how the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police is describing Fox News host Tucker Carlson's attempt to, in effect, rewrite history of the January 6th insurrection, describing it as a peaceful gathering. Speaker Kevin McCarthy, you may remember, gave Carlson access to tens of thousands of hours of footage from the Capitol attack.
Well, a number of his fellow Republican lawmakers, senators specifically, not too happy with Fox's decision to play that with Tucker Carlson downplaying the insurrection.
It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks.
I was there on January 6th. I saw what happened. I saw the aftermath. Look, there was violence on January 6th. I think the footage that's available should be made available to all networks, and everybody should be able to see for themselves just what kind of chaos we had on that day.
I think it's bullshit. I was here. I was down there. And I saw maybe a few tourists, a few people who got caught up in things, but when you see police barricades breached, when you see police officers assaulted, I just don't think it's helpful.
He's not the only one. CNN Chief Congressional Correspondent Manu Raju joining us now from Capitol Hill. So, Manu, you also spoke to McCarthy last night. What is he saying?
Yeah, he defended the decision. In fact, he did not agree with the criticism from Senator McConnell and also the criticism from the U.S. Capitol Police Chief, who said
wait a minute.
that this portrayal.
I just want to go back and really highlight that. Remember, senators were there. Senators were in the eye of the, well, not even the eye of the storm. They were in the worst of the storm. Senators had their actual lives in danger. It's just important to get an idea of where these people are coming from so you can better understand what they're going to do and why they're doing it. You're elected to the House, you only have to appeal to your district. When you are elected to the Senate, you have to appeal to your whole state. So they're already more likely to be middle-of-the-road folks. Fair enough. Add in the fact that these are the people that were running for their lives. They're not going to put up with what they consider to be their juniors' nonsense. Beautifully. I mean, we didn't see this before. And now the infighting is out in the open. It's firm. It's really a good thing. I just say you should be a little bit careful because I tell you, I can't underline this enough. I'm expecting, particularly in the days following the 2024 election, if things are the whooping I hope they're going to be for the Republicans, an influx of former Republicans joining the Democrats, perhaps even doing a deal where they widen whatever margins they won by and agreeing to pass certain legislation, blah, 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 blah. Be ready for that, and be ready for the kind of rhetoric you will see around that, including CNN trying to make comparisons between the far left and the far right. They do have some similarities, but none of the ones CNN will make. Just be ready for it.
On Fox News of January 6th was offensive, it was misleading, it was cherry-picked. Mitch McConnell saying he aligned himself squarely with that. And when I asked the speaker whether or not he regretted providing this footage to Tucker Carlson, who attempted to whitewash the events, the speaker defended his decision.
The footage that you gave Tucker Carlson last night, he went on and said this was a mostly peaceful chaos, as he said. He downplayed Brian Sicknick's death, said it was not related to January 6th, said this was not an insurrection. Do you regret giving him this footage so he could whitewash the events of that day?
No, I said at the very beginning, transparency. And so what I wanted to produce for everybody is exactly what I said, that people can actually look at it and see what's gone on that day. But why
Yeah, I gave him that footage so people could look at and see what was going on that day. It was streamed from 1,000 phones live on social media. Everybody saw what was going on that day. It was combed through. The New York Times did a documentary on it, playing bit by bit by bit, moment by moment, what happened. The January 6th committee had a filmmaker that was with the Oath Keepers behind the scenes release his footage to the January 6th committee, and they played it. It was a stunt. It's hilarious watching this guy flail because he's just got nothing. By the way, that poor son of a bee in the background, I used to be that guy. We don't have a cameraman. Get your cell phone, get over there. By the way, NH Moreno, you are easily the most interesting fellow I've talked to today. I really want to ask you a follow-up question about your comment. Let me get to the main screen following this. Oh, you know what? If you feel comfortable, don't feel that you have to. But if you feel comfortable talking about it, you say that you used to be MAGA from 2018 to 2021. I'm interested. What got you into MAGA in the first place, and what got you out of it? I'd very much like to talk a little bit about that. I'm interested in that side of this conversation because I think that's going to be the only way the country heals is if we understand how people got in, what's bringing them out, and how we can have real conversations about running our country. So, yeah, by all means, leave the message in the comments. I'll pop in and talk about it after this.
Look, each person can come up with their own conclusion, but what I just want to make sure is I had transparency.
But no pressure.
So he continued to say that he wanted to provide for transparency, but would not explain why he provided it to Carlson, who has long had a history of downplaying the events of that day that McCarthy himself condemned immediately after that happened on the House floor days later, but really exposing the divide here between the House Republicans and Senate Republicans in particular over January 6th, the fallout of that, and the role of Donald Trump in the party going forward. McCarthy, of course, aligning him squarely with Trump, Mitch McConnell on the other side, taking a much different approach of how the party should handle these issues going forward, all being exposed now and over McCarthy's handling of this security footage and this attempt to provide a different light about what happened from January 6th by Fox News and by some House Republicans as well.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Tillis, not mincing words there, calling it BS. Manu Raju, thanks so much. Well, today, newly disclosed messages from some of the biggest stars and executives at Fox News show that what they said and communicated in private contrasted what they told their viewers and repeated.
We played a little of this yesterday, but the new things that came out, they're so good. Ooh, I gotta play this.
Repeatedly. A trove of texts, emails, other material made public Tuesday as part of Dominion Voting Systems' $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against the right-wing channel Fox's staff privately criticized, dismissed Trump's election fraud lies, even though the network continued to promote them on the air. Take a look at these messages from November 20th between Fox host Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham. Carlson writes, former Trump attorney Sidney Powell, who's sharing many of these lies, quote, is a nut, to which Ingraham replies, no serious lawyer could believe what they were saying. But just one night later, this is what Ingraham was saying on the air.
And she had her on after that.
Now, legal challenges continue in a number of states. Serious questions about vote counting, poll watcher access are outstanding. But unless the legal situation changes in a dramatic and frankly an unlikely manner, Joe Biden will be inaugurated on January 20th. Now, to say this does not mean I don't think that this election was rife with problems and potential fraud.
What annoys me is the cowardice. I get angry at the lies, but the cowardice is what annoys me. Going as close to the line as she can, she thinks, without going over. Not quite saying stolen. But then Tucker Carlson, yada, yada, yada. It's just, I would have wished for braver villains in my time, you know? It's a depressing moment in politics, but fortunately, that is why we have dark humor, which I hope I've included in the next segment.
Despite what Tucker Carlson has said behind the scenes.
Oh, and Laura Ingraham looks like Satan's Barbie. There we go.
He is still, to this day, sowing doubts on air. This is from a show on Monday.
In retrospect, it is clear the 2020 election was a grave betrayal of American democracy. It is galling to be lectured about democracy by a man who took power in an election so sketchy that many Americans don't believe it was even real.
Why? Why don't they believe it was real? What was sketchy about it? None of the stuff you said on air, none of that was true. None of the stuff that prick right there said was going on was actually going on. And he said that in his text, he said that he knew that. So why was it sketchy? Oh, it wasn't sketchy. It went exactly as was predicted. Exactly as was predicted. Based on the rhetoric, based on what we knew about COVID at the time, and based on the amount of absentee ballots that were cast beforehand, it went exactly as predicted. Red Mirage, Blue Wave. I was talking about that weeks beforehand. So this guy says that the other problem is a lot of Americans don't believe that the election was real. He's why. I honestly believe this deserves criminal charges. I do believe in a strong First Amendment. I do believe in the freedom of the press. That's not press. That is a guy knowingly lying. It's fraud. He is a fraud. At the very least, whatever FCC license they have should get yanked. And we should seriously consider reinstating the fairness doctrine, which was eliminated in the 80s, which led to the rise of the misinformation.
Joining me now to discuss, NPR media correspondent David Folkenflik. David, good to have you on today.
Oh, Folkenflik. Ugh.
Great to join you, Jim.
So,
I'm
David,
hot and cold on him.
Based on what we're seeing from Tucker Carlson, despite the fact that now we know he was lying to his viewers around the election, saying one thing in private, one thing on the air, he is still calling the election into question. Are any Murdoch-owned publications, whether it be Fox, Fox Business, New York Post, Wall Street Journal,
I take it back. This is good Folkenflik stuff. When he does critiques of the media, he does tend to be, he knows his stuff, is all I'm saying.
Are the viewers or readers of any of those publications seeing what we're seeing here, the revelations from these court documents?
Oh, I think if you read the Wall Street Journal, you're getting a fairly straightforward news report in its pages, often prominently displayed, of what actually transpired. And I think you're seeing folks from the Wall Street Journal's news side trying to ensure that its reading public believes in its brand promise, that of telling the news straight and without fear or favor. It's a game that Murdoch plays. He sort of separates in his mind how he treats his upscale broadsheet newspapers like the Times of London and the Wall Street Journal from the tabloids like the New York Post, which he treats more like Fox News, which is you're going to see the political influence throughout the entire report.
Understood. Now we should note, is it correct Fox News has banned any discussion of this, given it is Fox News where the majority of these lies were shared with viewers?
Yeah, you saw Fox News' own chief media correspondent and anchor, Howie Kurtz, come forward about 10 days ago and say that he was barred from discussing on his show that he disagreed with it, but that was the corporate edict. That's an extraordinary admission. Because for Fox News to smother coverage of the biggest story in media and one of the biggest stories in politics right now is a concession that they're not putting news values first.
Now, I have no shortage of critiques for Fox News or anybody. I'll let everybody have it with both barrels. But I gotta stop using that talk. Good Lord, figuratively. I mean, for God's sake. But I will actually, believe it or not, stick up. Oh, God, it doesn't feel right. Stick up for Fox a little bit on this. I don't think they can talk about it. Other than to say, we acknowledge this is happening, but we can't talk about it because we're being sued. Think about this going the other way. Would you want a news organization being like, they're coming to get us, they're coming to get us, get out there and stop them? Hey, jury that could potentially hear this, don't believe a word there's... I mean, obviously, I don't think they'd be dumb enough to be that blatant, but they would spin just by the very... And any news organization would, just because they were involved. I think that might be CNN just really wanting to hack down Fox. I'm fine with that, but as far as media critiques go, and here after I said Folk and Flick was good at media critiques, I don't necessarily agree with their take there. That said, everything else, absolutely. So, what can you do about this? Widen that divide. There's a lot of people that are being lied to right now. And as CNN just pointed out, helpfully, a little bit catty, but still, right now Fox isn't talking about it. So these folks that have been drowned in misinformation, they're not getting it. This is an opportunity to talk to them. Just ask, did you hear what Tucker Carlson said about you? Did you hear what Tucker Carlson said about Donald Trump? Did you hear what Tucker Carlson said about the January 6th insurrection? Did you hear what he said about the conspiracies? They won't be able to get that answer from Fox, which means they will have to get it from other news organizations. Other news organizations are covering it honestly for the most part. OAN isn't talking about it, at least not much that I have seen. What's the other one? I draw a blank. But the point is, the reason they're not doing it is they don't want the same thing to happen to them. So this is a prime opportunity to wean people off of a misinformation network. It's a rare opportunity. Take advantage of it. Just ask the questions. It can only be healthy.